welcome to season 2 of The Love Show. What is love? 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 Today's episode of The Love Show is asking the question, is love hormonal? I'm going to read, to start us off, the definition of love as defined by Merriam-Webster in full. Last season I read part of it. I'm going to read the full definition now. A strong affection for another arising out of kinship or personal ties, maternal love for a child, attraction based on sexual desire, affection and tenderness felt by lovers. After all these years, they still are very much in love. Affection based on admiration, benevolence, or common interests. Love for his old schoolmates. An assurance of affection, give her my love. Warm attachment, enthusiasm, or devotion, love of the sea. An object of attachment, devotion, or admiration. Baseball was his first love. A beloved person, darling, often used as a term of endearment. In British, it's used as an informal, a term of address. Hello, love. Unselfish, loyal, and benevolent concern for the good of another, such as the fatherly concern of God for humankind and the brotherly concern for others. I find it interesting that they don't refer to a motherly concern or a sisterly concern, or a goddess, for that matter. A person's adoration of God, a god, such as Cupid or Eros, or personification of love. Again, no reference to Aphrodite or Venus or a goddess. The sexual embrace, copulation. A score of 0, as in tennis. Capitalized in Christian Science, God. Copulation? I understand words and definitions. I'm a poet. I'm a writer. I love words. I write poems. I write song lyrics. I write love shows. I write stories, novels, books. I understand words. I understand that we use in writing the term making love as a euphemism for sex in the place of a 4-letter word that is definitely not love. I didn't really know sex was a word you couldn't say. I'm still not really sure. I guess I'm not supposed to say it in my title. It wasn't on George Carlin's list. I've been kind of underground and off grid for a long time. Anywho, I think we really need to redefine love. To not include this euphemism. It's delusional to define love this way, and I think we're doing all of us, the whole planet, a disservice. We're doing the whole earth a disservice by defining love in this blasphemous manner. We are depriving the whole earth of real love that it really needs. I think we are disrespecting love. So this episode is entitled, Is Love Hormonal? In season 1, I stated that for love show purposes, love is not sex. I did not really explain why. I just totally avoided it for the whole season. And some people questioned this. So this season, welcome to season 2 of the Love Show, by the way. This season, I'm going to explain why. So today's episode, at long last, is about sex and hormones. But really, it's about why love is not hormones. Human emotion is a rainbow. There are so many emotions and variance in depth and hue and range. You may look at the rainbow and see red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. Some may even say they see the indigo. But there are all these other variants. Just in still looking at the same rainbow, if you look closer, you can see that there's no line between the colors, and that one color fades into the other and creates another color, and you start to perceive, before long, several more colors than 7. If you add white, the color becomes pastel. If you add black, the color darkens. If you add the complementary color, and that is the color opposite it on the color wheel, like red and green. If you add a little bit of green to red, you'll get a great shade to make a shadow in that color. I'm an artist. So if you put a color next to its complementary color, like red and green, you make it pop or stand out. I would say love is like the color next to its complementary color. And sex is like mixing the complementary color in. We have emotions, we have hormones, we have emotions driven by hormones. When people confuse sex and love, their emotions are being driven by hormones. Sex muddies up our perception, like mixing in the complementary color muddies up the color. Excuse me. We may perceive sex to be love, but our hormones are tricksters. And what we see is like love, it can have love in it, like the color with its complementary color mixed in. It still looks like the red that you started with, but it's darker somehow. Love that is confused with sex is also darker somehow. Love is selfless. Sex is selfish. Psychiatrist M. Scott Peck from The Guardian says, love is the desire to extend yourself at whatever personal cost for the purpose of nurturing the growth and furthering the dreams of another individual. Olivia Fain, also of The Guardian, says love and erotic love are two very different emotions. I would argue that they are almost contrary. She says she would argue. There was a quote. I would argue that they are almost contrary as well, if not, in fact, contrary. Hilary Jacobs Hendel, psychotherapist and author at HuffPost, says mental health is vastly improved by being in touch with the full range of our core emotions. So, the whole rainbow. Not just the 7 colors either. All the various shades blending together. I feel the physically fit person cannot be totally fit unless they are also mentally and emotionally and hormonally fit. People say weak people are emotional. But I feel the truth is we are all emotional. And those often referred to as emotional are actually among the evolutionary, yes, but emotionally fit. Or those who consider that they have a whole range of emotions. I feel emotions and dealing with them to be only for the strong and brave. The weak are the ones running from their emotions and replacing them with sex. To put a band-aid on a leaking dam is folly. And to look at only sex and anger as strong emotions is also folly. It's only seeing the tip of the iceberg and not considering the larger part under the water. Psychiatrist Judith Orloff, MD of Psychology Today, infers that confusion of the two can be downright dangerous. She discusses in her talk how listening to your gut can prevent domestic violence. She says the gut senses a potential for kindness and violence. Therefore, the gut can sense not only your emotions in the full range, but those emotions of others in a full range. If you love someone, you will want to sense their emotions and keep yours in check. And that's not to say that you become a robot with no emotions by keeping them in check. I mean, keeping them from being over exaggerated or for the wrong reasons. And we have emotions. We're emotional beings. I hate when people say, don't take it personally. How else am I supposed to take it? I'm a person. I don't know how to take it like a giraffe. So if you take and give personally, it's with emotion. Sometimes sometimes that emotion is like, sometimes that emotion is love, sometimes it's dislike, sometimes it's distaste, and everything in between. Even things like melancholy are emotions, and we need to be aware of our emotions and our emotional state and give way to it, lest we bottle it up. And then the pressure builds, and then it explodes. If we don't deal with our emotions, they will explode. It's like lighting the gunpowder and saying, well, it hasn't hit the TNT yet. Just hang out. It's going to hit the TNT. And when it does, what's going to happen? It's going to explode. If you know that you have some emotions, why not acknowledge all of them? It seems that it is much more dangerous for everyone around you, not just you, to ignore the full range of your emotions. It's dangerous because of the confusion that it can cause. If you don't acknowledge that you feel nervous about something, say crossing the street, and you don't look both ways and you just walk willy-nilly into the road and you get hit by a bus, is it worth having not acknowledged the feeling that maybe you should look both ways? I don't think it's worth not acknowledging your feelings. And to confuse love with sex can be to put yourself in a confused state where you don't understand your own emotions. People like fear these days. We like to project fear on others to control the situation. We fear things that we do not understand. But understanding can lead us to a much richer and deeper life. Understanding is love. And probably another love show. Understanding love and those that love us and those that we love, that is the way to a more meaningful and real love. And understanding that sex is a primal, hormonal way of procreating, being able to separate what is sex from what is love, gives us a clearer picture of what is really happening all around us. We may need sex to procreate, although we can do that in a laboratory now. But as we saw in season 1, we need love to grow properly. We don't need sex to love. I made a good rule when I was young, before I ever had sex. I told myself that I would only have sex with people that I love. And I stuck to it. And if I did not love a person, I wouldn't have sex with them. And for all these years, I think it helped me to keep love and sex separate, but sort of joined at the same time. If there was no love, I just didn't allow sex to get involved. I know I'm sort of on television, but TV would have people believe that everyone out there is cheating on their husbands and wives. But I've really found the opposite to be true. I find that most people today who go to the trouble to get married do it for love. And single folks are told by TV that people don't take marriage seriously, but they do. And when love and sex come together truthfully and honestly, they can be very powerful. And that makes your relationship deeper and more meaningful. It makes your love deeper and more meaningful. It makes your marriage deeper and more meaningful. It gives you a richer, livelier, more real life. It is this life that births a healthy family. The life that brings love and sex together truthfully and honestly. The life that can be very powerful and deep and meaningful and loving and rich and lively. It's that life that one wants to be born into. I was on the road for a long time. I met a lot of people. And when I met young girls in their 20s, I saw myself in them. And I would give them advice. And I would tell them, if you're going to have sex with a guy, you should love him. Because every time a man and a woman have sex, it's possible to make a child. And once you have a child with someone, they're going to be in and out of your life, whether you like it or not, for the rest of your life. So you should be able to picture yourself with that person for the rest of your life. And you should love them, because you're going to need that love to tolerate them for the rest of your life. I want to address why this separation between love and sex is so important for me. And I feel we have no real need for procreation to be imminent at this point in time. It's not as important to our survival as a species as it was in ancient times anyway. We live longer and we can make babies in labs, and we do not need to prematurely procreate. And I'm not so sure we ever had to at all. I don't think it was necessary to our survival. In fact, I feel that it really may have hurt us. Having sex at an early age was once the norm. Girls in ancient times were married off by the time they were teenagers. Having sex prematurely may have actually harmed our species, though. I mean, if you think about all the young mothers who died and all the babies who died in childbirth because the mom's body was too young and underdeveloped. There has been, as of late, an argument that child molesters will use, saying that they love the child they are molesting. And I feel that that is not true at all. If you loved that child, you would clothe the child, you would feed the child, you would care for the child, You would hold the child, but not sexually. You would not have sex with the child. You hold a child in a protective, loving, compassionate manner. Children are not equipped for sex, but they are equipped for love. And if an adult is confusing sex with love at the child's expense, or even just at a young girl's expense, then I feel they are damaging that child or young girl's perception of love. I mean, I feel they're damaging a lot, but they're damaging that child's perception of love, the adult's perception of love, and children and young girls, they have a grasp on their emotional rainbow. They really do have an innate grasp on their emotions, and it's for their survival. You know, babies cry out when they're hungry so they can get fed. They also know there's an emotional reaction to everything, and therefore they also know when they have been hurt. They also know when they have been abused, and they also know when they have been violated. Loving another person means understanding them and understanding yourself and understanding the emotions of both you and the person that you love. If you're hurting someone that you love, you should know and understand that. Having sex with a child, even if the child says yes, is abusive. Because an adult should know better than to have sex with a child. It is hurting them. It can be physically abusive too, because the child's body is underdeveloped. It's not equipped for sex. It can also be terrifying to a child or a young girl. And if a young girl gets pregnant who's too young to carry the baby properly, and she dies, or the baby dies, or both, is that not abusive? If you knew better as a male to not have sex with a child who has a body that's obviously unprepared for childbirth? Adult men need to know better. They need to become more in touch with their emotions and learn the difference between love and sex. If humanity doesn't become hip to the difference between love and sex, we will keep harming ourselves in these damaging ways that we may not come back from. Sex may physically be involved in creating a child, but love makes a child grow. Love is where it's at, even at sex's table. Love has a seat. Love has a seat at every table. And I like to give love the best seat. It's just more important to me than sex. What is love? It's not sex. What is love? It is real. Is love real? Join us next time on The Love Show and find out. Thanks for watching. I'm Merlin Malilly. I love you. Get out there and love. Keep loving.